Hi, everyone. So here we are beginning week 9, and a few notes that I want to share with you. First of all, be aware that midterm grades have been entered. And so on Wednesday, your midterm grades will be available to you, and you'll be able to see where you stand so far in this class. Now, the deadline to drop without academic penalty, if you want to drop, will be Friday the 9th. And I guess that's by the end of business or close of business on that day. I will caution you with this. If you are considering dropping, if you have a C average or better, I would recommend staying in the class. You're going to have plenty of opportunities to raise your grade, maybe to a B level. There's still 2 more exams that are going to be worth a significant portion of your grade, and you can still raise your grades a little bit in the discussions and the weekly projects and the weekly quizzes. So don't take dropping lightly. I would say if you have a C or better on your midterm, stick it out and work hard and you'll be fine. Now, if you're not doing any work and you're failing this class, then I would highly recommend that you drop it, because if you haven't shown the commitment to get a passing grade to this point, I have no reason to believe that you'll show that commitment again in the second half of the semester. So that's where we stand on those. So what are we doing this week? This week we are looking at the Rossettis, the brother and sister duo of Dante Gabriel Rossetti and Christina Rossetti. So I'll start with Christina, the sister. We're going to read her poem, Goblin Market. And as you read Goblin Market, the parallels between that and the Genesis story of the Garden of Eden are going to be extremely evident. So it's about a pair of sisters who are tempted by goblins to buy fruit that is forbidden. There's going to be another young lady named Jeannie who has purchased the fruit before, and she died craving another taste of it. And so, one sister is going to give in to the temptation, the other is not. This is a story of temptation. It's a story of redemption, because there will be a redemption at the end of the story. But bear in mind that Christina Rossetti wrote this as a warning to young girls not to give in to temptations, whether that be sexual temptation, or there have been very convincing arguments about the temptation to take drugs, which at the time this poem was written would have been opium. And but there is a redeeming quality to one of the characters in this story, and you'll see how she redeems the other character. One sister redeems the other sister as the story goes on. So one of my favorite poems that we're going to read this semester is Goblin Market. Dante Gabriel Rossetti was known just as much for being a painter as he was for being a poet. And he was a part of something called the Pre-Raphaelite Brotherhood. And what these Pre-Raphaelites believed was that, the London Academy of Art was saying art should be about the ideal. It should be about the perfect person. It should be about the perfect morals. It should be about perfect nature. The Pre-Raphaelites said, no, art should depict realism. In fact, this period is just if you've studied American literature and you've studied realism, this time period when the Pre-Raphaelite Brotherhood was around kind of is about the same period, give or take a few years, as the American realist movement, when authors like Stephen Crane and authors like Hamlin Garland and Theodore Dreiser and writers like that were writing in America. The Pre-Raphaelites thought, hey, let's show the human body with all of its scars. Let's show the excess body fat. Let's show that humans are not perfect. Let's show that sometimes there are some moral ambiguities. So bear in mind that when I wrote the schedule at the beginning of the semester, there's a note on the top of the schedule that says this schedule can change without notice at any time during the semester. This is one of those weeks. I have removed the 2 sonnets that you're supposed to read from Dante Gabriel Rossetti from the book, I believe it was House of Life, and I've replaced it with the Damozel poem, right? So in the Damozel, what's going to end up happening is that it's going to be the story of lost love due to death, but it's going to be turned on its head, because it's going to be told from this point of view of the young lady in heaven, not from the guy that's left on earth after she passed away. And she's going to be in heaven pining for his return so they can spend eternity together. But there is some ideal versus realistic there, right? So while, the young man on earth is thinking that she's looking over him from heaven, the truth is if heaven's as far away as we believe it is, you can't really see anybody on Earth. Earth is like this tiny little speck, and how are you going to see anybody on it? So look at the realism and the conflict there between realist and idealistic. And then the other poem is My Sister's Sleep, which is a poem that takes place on the night of Christmas Eve and into Christmas morning, where a young boy loses his sister. So by sleep, it means her death. And notice the imagery in this poem. Notice how Dante Gabriel Rossetti appeals to a coldness. Notice how he appeals to visual imagery. Notice how he appeals to sound imagery. He uses imagery very effectively in this poem to create a mood. And what is that mood that he creates? That's what you need to be looking at when you read My Sister's Sleep. So, this week it's going to be another reader response paper. It's not going to be some kind of a project. So you've got the quiz, you've got the reader response paper, and then you've got the discussion board. And this week's discussion board is going to be to ask you what makes better art. Art that depicts things the way they truly are, or art that depicts things as an ideal look at what they should be. So that's what we got for this week. Everything that you need is in the folder now. So this is the second week in a row that I've been able to have everything in by Monday. And I really do hope you enjoy reading the works of Christina and Dante Gabriel Rossetti.